It was what a good game. It wasn't always pretty, but we had a slow start in both of the halves and eventually put it together on both ends. I thought we missed some opportunities offensively. I mean, even the first shot of each half was a pretty good look, I thought. And then we settled in and started to play, and there were a lot of things and that contributed to that, possibly being off for so long and not having played. We've gotten a lot of shots up, but not at the same pace as game pace, and not with the same level of fatigue as game day, and not as much crowd there. The crowd was awesome. It was great. There were a couple moments where they turned up, and I don't even ever really notice or pay too much attention, but today I did, and there were just a couple things, a couple plays that happened that turned it up, and there's nothing that inspires players and energizes guys like a home crowd. So it was great, good atmosphere, and all we wanted to do was to be 1 point better than those guys. Tough team. They did. They're a very competitive team. They have a good system defensively. It makes it hard to score, particularly around the basket, which we want that to be part of a staple of what we do. And they forced us into some threes. Some were good threes. Some were not as good threes. And we didn't have a great day shooting a three. So luckily we were able to make it up at the free throw line. But their coach does a really good job. They have some really talented young guys. And so I was really happy with the win.
Lamont, when Michi's just kind of on like that, and especially seemed to be the only guy really getting a consistent good shot, just do you say anything to him? Just kind of say, hey, you're good, and then talk to the other guys. Just how do you kind of coach that?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I try not to do is to go pot committed when you're feeling good at the poker table and you put it all in, and just kind of, certainly we're going to make sure some things happen. The good thing about us offensively and our team, we have an unselfish team, but offensively we can generate a lot of things organically to where we don't have to make a call. But then we also did throw a couple of things in where we did make a call. So I just wanted to try to make it seem like, hey, this is what you do. You consistently play well versus like, oh, he's hot, we better get 10 in a row right now while it's hot. Who knows what it's going to be after that. So, but he's a smart player. We have a smart team. We didn't feel like we needed to force it to him, but at the same time, I think he knew, and a lot of guys know that they're in that same situation. You're playing well, of course, you need to be more aggressive. And so today it was him.
Hey, Coach, always fun scoring points, but being able to hold an opponent to 53 points, how big and how important is that for defense to be such a priority this year?
Yeah, that's huge to be able to do that because, like I've always said, if these guys are ever trying to do one thing every single possession, it's when they shoot the ball they're trying to make it, if they're ever trying to do anything. And so that's going to betray you some days. And, today was one of them. To be honest with you, I thought we got some good looks from three, some really good looks from three, and didn't shoot great from there. But when you can be a defensive-minded team that's also very capable offensively, that's a great thing. I just think if you're able to commit to the team defensive side of things, you have to have a pretty rotten offensive day to not be in contention when you look up and there are 5 minutes on the clock. And so, honestly, that's all we want every single game. We look up, it's things starting to wind down, and we put ourselves in a position where we can make a couple plays to win. So I honestly believe it starts with the defensive end.
John, in the back right. You touched on the fact that players get a sense of being when a guy's hot to get him the ball, a guy's cold to back off a little bit. Do you feel like you have a little bit more influence as a coach this year because you have a little bit deeper roster to, like when Miles is off shooting tonight, you can take him out and let somebody else be on there. Do you feel like you have more influence as a coach this year from that standpoint?
No question. There's no doubt about it. And it also, I think it also helps guys make changes in behavior. Right, and because, just to put it out there, Miles didn't play great from a shooting standpoint, but honestly, that's normally not the reason that guys' minutes get limited. Normally, at the end of the game, sure, I'll go with somebody who's hot if we need some points, but, Zach Davis had 0 points tonight, and he, in the plus-minus category, led the team. He was plus 23 in his minutes out there. So it's not just that, but there's no question the luxury to be able to make some moves and decisions. I mean, my job's a little harder because I got to push more buttons, but it's nice to be able to have some guys that you can put out there, and you trust what they're going to do. You trust what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to have a great day shooting and who's not, but you do have a real good sense of who's going to comply with what your team is trying to get done overall.
You mentioned that sense, and 6-0, it seems like the guys are able to get more confidence with each game. I'm kind of curious, just as a bigger picture thing, like what's your scheduling philosophy with the team, especially when you're kind of new to a program?
I like to schedule winnable games, but this was a really good game, and obviously we didn't schedule this. This was a part of the SEC ACC challenge, or is it ACC SEC this year?
SEC challenge this year.
Okay.
Next year it's SEC.
Next year. I've always been ahead of my time, so I'm calling it SEC ACC right now. Sorry, if that offends anybody, but so that's a great game that we get, right? You get a program like that and a coach like that to come to your place, and so that's great. Me personally, I like to have 3 or 4 games that are good, tough games, that if you win those games, there's going to be some credit to reap towards the end of the season. I think those are very important games. And then, you also want to schedule some games, like I said, they're winnable games. You got a great chance to win if you go out there and do what you're supposed to do. It's hard in year 2 because you're in year 2, you're developing, and you have a lot of new faces again. So you don't know what's going to be what specifically. But I thought it's a great game. I'd love to have a big name school and a good program like Notre Dame coming in here or doing a home and home with schools like that. The challenge is you get these MTEs now, and you can play a couple of them on a neutral court, and everybody thinks it's a better scenario to get them on a neutral court. But that's my basic philosophy. I let the assistants handle that. They tell me when we play. I come up, I show up, and I coach.
Alan on the left.
You sat Michi as hot as he was there when you guys were down 1 about midway through the second half and kind of turned the game around while he was sitting. I guess, A, what does that kind of mean to you as a coach to see the team kind of rally when he's not in? And B, were you trying to steal some minutes there, just get him some rest? What was kind of the thought process there?
It's very important to be able to do that, but I thought he was, just from a defensive activity standpoint, I didn't see some things that he normally does. And so I just attributed it to fatigue a little bit. So I wanted to get him a blow. And then as we started playing well with that group out there, I extended it a little bit. And that's just the way that went. But obviously with any of these guys, I don't really ever have a problem coming back to him. And I have faith in him that you go away a little bit. BJ had a stretch where he was on the bench, and then I wanted him to be as fresh as he could be so that I didn't have to sub. I wanted to ride him out the rest of the way if I could, and I didn't think we could do that for 9 minutes. I just didn't think that was realistic. I think you're forcing it, and you're going to get some, play that you may not want. So I had him come out right before the last media, or the 8-minute media, and then once he went back in, he pretty much was in for the rest of the game. But just with Michi, I just thought there was maybe a little fatigue showing. He may not have been subbed out that half yet. Was it around 12 something maybe? Or I think he hadn't been out the game yet. So played 7 minutes or so, and so I just wanted him to get a blow, get fresh, and then be ready to come back with a vengeance.
When you start a season 6-0, you get a lot of people excited. One thing they've really latched onto is your love of quarter zip jackets. I don't know if you noticed they did a quarter zip cam on the screen for the fans and everything.
No, I did not notice that.
I'm just curious, how does it feel to not only be undefeated but also a fashion icon?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always thought I had a little eye for fashion, but it's the opposite of that probably. But yeah, it's fun. It's taken on a life of its own. I want to have fun with it too. So I had a guy from the state of Wisconsin called me, and he asked me about a couple players. And I thought that's what the conversation was. And at the end of the day, he was like, "Oh, by the way," he said, "Why are you always wearing quarter zips for?" But so it's taken on a life of its own. But it's fun. Our fans have rallied around it. Our players, they give me a hard time about it. I wore a hoodie one day, and that was like, wow. Don't ever let me wear jeans. If they ever see me wear jeans, that's like, they'll go bananas. But yeah, so I gotta increase my overall closet and my volume of quarter zips now.
Elijah and then Elijah, you passed the mic to Madison.
Yeah. Coach, I think your first 29 shots this afternoon, I think 20 of them were three-pointers. Was that something that you guys kind of saw that you could get, in the scouting report, or was that something that kind of happened, organically throughout the game?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that number. See, that's why I like coming to these things. I learn something every time, but I didn't realize it was 20 out of 29. I knew it was a lot, but we did. We knew that was going to be a thing that we would. There were a lot of different ways that we thought we could get some threes, some pick and pop situations with BJ, throwing it to the post, the way that they dig into the post. We thought we could get some that way. And then just the normal that you're going to get against a normal team in the regular flow of basketball, and that ended up being 20 out of 29. I don't know how many we made. It wasn't a bunch of them, but I did anticipate that our number of threes would be pretty high, but I also anticipated the number that went in would correspond with that. And I was right on one, I was wrong on the other.
Kind of going off of that a little bit, what would you consider to be a pretty average or above average number of points in the paint that you guys score per game? Or is there like a ballpark that you kind of assume, or is it just kind of like whatever the situation presents yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to open myself up for all kinds of judgment. I don't really have some sort of goal of how many points in the paint I'd like. I don't really. I like, once we get the ball around the rim, I'd like to make strong moves. I do. That's one thing I do like, is I want more power moves and less finesse moves to start the game. And then once you're really cooking, then you can throw a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hook in there if you want. But I don't have a number that we're trying to get to in terms of point in the paint. I just want to be aggressive when we have opportunities to drive downhill. Let's do it. When we throw the ball in the post, let's make strong moves. Let's do that. I think they work together, the inside game and the outside game. We have guys that can make threes. We do. I see it at practice every day. I've seen it in some games. And so while you're doing that, you're going to give yourself more opportunity in the paint. And at the same time, if you're effective in the paint, you'll continue to give yourself more opportunities around the perimeter. So I don't want to be one-dimensional. I like to be able to score in a variety of different ways, but I don't have a specific number of points in the paint.
Coach, obviously it's always good to walk out with a win, but there are some coaches that like the idea of winning ugly at times because your team's going to run into adversity at some point. So, comes off as a good sign of character and being able to persist for your team. Does your coaching mindset sort of gravitate more towards that? Or after a game like this, do you still focus on, hey, we got to correct some issues before we get on to our next stretch here upcoming?
Probably both. We definitely we'll watch film tomorrow. We got a quick turnaround, but we'll watch the clips from this game tomorrow, and it's nice to be able to win and still make some mistakes, which we did. Some mistakes that I think have to do with effort, concentration, discipline. Missed shots around the basket, that's not really a mistake. I don't really count those things. But yeah, I think we're just trying to improve constantly. And so we'll talk about that stuff tomorrow as we watch the film, and just and use it as a lesson. You use it as a lesson. But at the same time, you like some games where, if you knew you were going to win, you'd never draw up a 25-point blowout. I don't think most coaches would, right? You'd say, okay, well, in this one, we had to get a defensive stop to win. Okay, ooh, that's a good one. And then here's another one where we had to score a bucket at the end. We had to execute on an offensive play. Ooh, that helped us. And here's another one where we had to ice it with a bunch of free throws late in the game. Ooh. And because all those things, you never know when they're going to come around. And so you'd like to have real life experience. You can simulate those things at practice all you want. It's just not the same. So in a perfect world, it's good to have a game where you start off 0 for 7 in the first half. You start off 1 for 7 in the second half, and you find a way to put it all together. And with stops here, a bucket here, a timely bucket, it's nice to do that. Miles doesn't play great, right? Doesn't play as many minutes as he normally does. It's not punitive. It just was we were playing better with the group we had out there, and so it's nice to be able to do that stuff, and then learn some lessons and get back and watch some film on it tomorrow.
Hey, Lamont, do you have any update on Colin Murray Boyles, and what kind of progress has he made over the last few weeks?
That's a good question. And, I'm no doctor. I don't know if you knew that or not. But he has been cleared to start doing some things at practice. And I was so happy for the kid. Imagine being out of having basketball not be a part of your life as a freshman in college, and you have these expectations. So I'm just happy that he can get out and practice with us now. But so that's on the road to recovery. He's able to actually, I think tomorrow will be the first day he can do full go stuff in the full court and in the half court, I think. They've told me that. So that's good. And then as his body continues, he lost I don't know how many pounds, a bunch, and but as he continues to get better physically and get more acclimated into things, we'll eventually be able to sprinkle him into some games, hopefully sometime soon. He's a great kid. He's a good player. The question will be how long it takes him to get back to where he was pre-mono, which was playing at a high level at that point.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.